RockstarLeatherworks.com is your home for badass rock and roll gear. Featuring 100% handmade leather bands, watches, cuffs, bracelets, and more, Rockstar Leatherworks has something for everybody. Whether you are going to the show or you are in it, you can find something to fit your needs. Choose from a variety of designs or create your own masterpiece. Their bands and watches are second to none. They also ship internationally. Who needs a stage to be a rock star? Check out RockstarLeatherworks.com.
Would I listen to Izzy Presley? Ooh, not if he was the last disc jockey on earth, honey.
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary.
Why did you say that? Why? Why? You come out with stink like that? Poop. Your poop mouth. Poop out of your mouth.
See, son? Old legends never die. They just lose weight.
Like a legend and an out-of-work bum look a lot alike, Daddy.
I've got a midget friend, an albino friend, and another friend who thinks Lord of the Rings is real. Together we call ourselves the Unfuckables.
Return is in. Let the fun begin.
Body touch.
Oh, Hollywood. Hello, world. And hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you, and it's always good to be seen. I'm Izzy Presley, and this is the relaunch, the reboot of the Izzy Presley Show. And very excited to be doing this again. I mean, it's been a long time, a little bit different than the old version of the show. The old version of the show was a lot of commentary, and a lot of those shows have been deleted. Because it just doesn't really fit with what I do, you know. But if you are listening to this via audio, you will probably notice the name Paul Gargano on it. Paul is not a part of this show. Why do you see the name Paul Gargano? Because on my Spreaker page, when you listen to the show live, the Metal Edge magazine, another effing podcast with myself and Paul Gargano from Metal Edge magazine, I had to change it so his name would appear. That simple. And unfortunately, when I change it, it changes it, adds it to everything. So Paul is not a part of the show. This is the Izzy Presley Show. This is me running solo. And the difference with this new show is, pardon me, this is an interview show like you're used to, but I'm getting people and getting into subjects that aren't necessarily Metal Edge magazine material. So like, for instance, this very first show, this is not live. I am not going to do this show live. You know, once we build up the listenership, because I realize it's not going to be like the Metal Edge show where we get our hardcore listeners every week and hundreds and thousands of downloads and video views. Then we will start to do it live once it builds a little bit. So for instance, this week, the very first show back, I have a cat that you know from the Adam Carolla Show, you know from his podcast, Fitness Confidential. And he's been on another effing podcast multiple times. You know his voice from the old ads. And yes, the ads are back, but they're cut down. Vinnie Tortorich, because he has a brand new film out called Beyond Impossible. Let me take these glasses off. I don't need these glasses for anything. So he's got a movie that just came out this month that is available on iTunes. It is available on Amazon Prime. It is called Beyond Impossible, and it's a look at the industry of fake meat. And joining me, Brian Forsythe of the band KIX. He lives the no sugar, no grain lifestyle. And, you know, he's always constantly posting photos of his smoked meat and duck eggs, and that's basically what he eats. And that's Vinny's lifestyle as well. And it's ironic and awesome when you listen to Brian talk about it. We'll get into it here in a little bit. Brian brings up names, and Vinny knows these guys. He knows everybody that Brian's talking about. The whole, pardon me, keto, no sugar, no grain community. They all know these names. So that is where we're rolling. Mike Dawson from the Adam Carolla Show joins the show as well. And it's ironic because both Vinny and Brian are older than myself and Mike, in much better condition, much better shape. And then here's me and Mike, you know, just Izzy and Dawson rolling with the conversation. So it's a very, very good, interesting conversation. I look forward to you guys enjoying it. Before we get to that, make sure you check out Beater Amplification. That's 2E's beateramplification.com. 100 watts of testicular fortitude. Ooh, yeah. And my loyal listeners and watchers will notice in the background, somebody has pointed it out, that that beater is not behind me. Well, there's a reason for that. The reason that the beater is not here is because it is at the practice space. So that is my main rig. I love it. Check them out. Beateramplification.com. Hand-wired, hand-built, 100 watts. Tube. Oh, these things sound so goddamn good. And my good friend Oz. Yes, Oz. Over at aplaser.com. Laser engraving for the best of them. We just got these brand new Smokin Kills Zippos. Yeah, look at that. Get the Smokin Kills logo laser engraved on it. These guys are so good. They can laser engrave a hot dog bun. Hit them up, aplaser.com. So let's get with it after these two messages. We'll be right back. It is the Izzy Presley Show. Vinnie Tortorich, Brian Forsythe, Mike Dawson coming up.
Rockwood Saloon Authentic Apparel takes rock and roll fashion to a new level with their tees and tanks for men and women. They also make custom shirts, jackets, vests, pants, hoodies, beanies, and more. The Rockwood Graphics Department can design anything from your logo, t-shirt design, promo posters, band swag, and printed at great prices. From tour shirts and custom stage gear to killer threads for the street to the stage, Rockwood Saloon has it all. Rockwood Saloon, authentic rock and roll apparel for stage and street. World Tour tested for quality, comfort, style, and durability. Check them out at www.rockwoodsaloon.com. That's rockwoodsaloon.com.
All right, and we are back with our guests of honor. This is a whole no sugar, no green show. And joining us on, I'm really excited about this because he lives that lifestyle, and I'm going to see him in a couple weeks on the Monsters of Rock cruise from KIX, Mr. Brian Forsythe. Good day, sir.
How's it going?
Good, man. It's good to see you. And ironically, this day, 13 years ago, was a very painful day for Minnesota sports fans. It is the day that the New Orleans Saints put a bounty out on Brett Favre and beat our Vikings to go to the Super Bowl. And he's sitting here in front of me with a New Orleans Saints hat. You know him. You love him. His brand new movie is called Beyond Impossible. Welcome back, Mr. Vinnie Tortorich. Good day, sir.
Izzy, thanks for having me. And Brian, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you, man. And I would love to have you on my show at some point if you come on.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
So go ahead, Vinny.
Before you go on, about the Saints, about football in general, did you guys watch football this past weekend?
My Vikings aren't in it. I was watching hockey.
So that's it. That's all it takes. Your team's not like the Saints have been out, they didn't even make it to the playoffs. And it was interesting to watch on Saturday night, basically something close to the Ice Bowl coming out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And then 16 hours later, you turn on the game in Tampa Bay and everybody's in short sleeves and you go, man, what a country.
Yeah, right. Well, the only vested interest I had in the Packers game is being a Vikings fan. You want them to lose, and they lost. So it was fun to laugh at Packer fan after the loss because they are so braggadocious and get so quiet after the Packers lose. It's great. And I wanted the Rams to lose because I'm not a fan of any LA teams because of LA traffic, and they make it fucking worse. And I wanted to see Tom Brady get another one. So those were my vested interests.
But, when you think about it, I was telling this to my brother. He goes, it's interesting. You can see LA games, pro games, like pro football games on television. And the stands are not, when they take that overhead shot, the fans are never there. The stands are not packed.
Right.
And he said, "What the hell?" And I said, "Well, you got to remember, LA has got people from all over the world, and half the people don't even know what football is.
Right.
Some of the people are oddly into hockey. Other people are into God only knows what, basketball or baseball or whatever. And, football is like neither here nor there. You can't, at an LSU game, they can have a losing season. The stands are packed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy how different it is.
Right. Brian, what was it like for you when you were out here? Because you lived out here for a long time.
Yeah.
What did you notice as far as the sports thing went?
I'm like the least sports guy you'll ever meet. Yeah, so the only thing I could complain about the traffic.
Right. Yeah, Vinny, you don't have to deal with that anymore either.
Oh, thank God, man. 30 years of that. It's friends of mine are saying to me, it's like, how different is it? And it's like, well, one of my sports is shooting skeet, right? When I lived in LA, let's say I left for the skeet range at 2:00 in the morning, which I would never do when there's no traffic. Even at 2 in the morning, as you know, there's traffic, but I could have gotten from my house to the skeet range in about 20, 25 minutes. But every time I traveled to go to the skeet range, it took like, on a good day, 90 minutes. If there was any traffic at all, it was 2 hours. So now you're talking 90 minutes to 2 hours there, 90 minutes to 2 hours back. That's 3 or 4 hours just in drive time. That's not the 2 hours you spend there. That's a whole day.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's like when people ask me hey, Izzy, you want to come pick me up at LAX? Look, I have these 2 rules now. Unless you're blowing me or bankrolling me, fly into Burbank, because I am not driving to LAX, because that, like you said, that's a fucking all day excursion.
Yeah. And everything's like that. I mean, my daughter used to like going to Dodger games. Forget the cost of the Dodger game. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The money I would lose by basically taking from, if the game was at 6:00, you're taking off. My last client I would see would be at around 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to rush home, grab her, and then start driving. And I would look around and I would go, okay, the stands are filled. What the fuck do these people do for a living? Because, and by the way, most of the people at the Dodger games weren't even they were from some, third world country. It's like, how did they get here? How did all these people get here? And I don't mean that in a derogatory.
Yeah, right.
It's just, the English speakers were very, very low on that list. People from Central America, people from Mexico and everywhere else filled that stands every week.
Yeah. Well, those are the ones that are there early, because you always see the expensive seats that always fill up after the first couple innings, and then they dissipate with about 2 innings left because everybody wants to beat the traffic.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I would be sitting there going, wow, this cost me a fortune to be here today. And it took almost an entire day.
Yeah. I tell you, I've been to one Dodger game, and I used to cover sports in Minnesota. So I got used to the press box and the cushy press box, being on the field before the game, the clubhouse, yada, 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 free hot dogs and air conditioning and, your Wi-Fi. And I went to my one Dodger game and I sat in the bleachers in left field, just like this in between families. I'm like, yeah, this sucks. The sun just pounding down. I'm like, okay, boom, I'm done. I'll watch it on TV.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Brian, where are you from originally?
From Maryland.
So not far from where I'm in Virginia now. I'm in Central Virginia, so not far away.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. And I ended up moving out to LA, 93. And then I moved to Nashville 3 years ago.
How do you like Nashville? How's that?
Well, I was a little hesitant because I love the weather in LA, not the traffic, but the weather. Love the weather. And I hated leaving there because of that, but it was just so expensive. The prices here, well, at least 3 years ago, it was crazy cheap to buy a house here. And I was a little hesitant about the weather because the reason I left Maryland to begin with was because of the seasons.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I got to go back and deal with the seasons again. But actually here, they're not that bad. This year may be a little more extreme, but it's like a mild version of where I grew up.
Yeah, I was in Nashville a few months ago. Yeah, I took a trip through the South. I grew up in Louisiana, and I met my brothers and my parents, who are still with us, in Mississippi, and we took the what is it, trail, the Natchez Trace.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, and of course it ends in Nashville. And I hadn't been in Nashville for several years, and it was really, really kind of odd because everything has changed. Just in the past. Have you noticed that, Brian?
Oh yeah, even since I've been here, it's just constant construction everywhere, especially downtown.
Dawson just came in. There's a great story I have to tell about the last time I was in Nashville before now. It was around 2003. And I was in Kentucky at the time, and my phone rang. I'm going to name drop here. But my phone rang, and it was Bill Shatner. And he goes, you must come to Nashville. I can't do a Shatner. Right? And it's like, why? What's going on in Nashville? He goes, you must come. I'm doing another album. And God, what's the name? The guy did a couple of albums. He's the something 5, but now he produces a lot. Help me, Dawson. Not the Dave Clark 5, but if you said the name, I would remember it.
Something 5.
Yeah.
Huh.
5-man electrical band. Moving
on. No.
Just kidding.
The guy produces now, but he was the something 5, something 5 or 4. I don't know. I just fucked up the entire story by doing that. Because the guy's he was a big time 90s guy, and then he went into producing other bands and everything else.
Ben Folds?
Ben Folds, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Was it Ben Folds 5 or Ben Folds 4?
It was the Ben Folds 5, yes.
Yeah, Ben Folds 5 with 3 people in the band.
Yeah, and he told me, he goes, do you know who Ben Folds is? I said, yeah, everybody knows who Ben. He goes, he's producing me. And I was like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. So I got my car the next day and drove to Nashville. And sure enough, he was in a studio recording another album where he talks and music is being played behind him. And that was my last time there.
Damn. I like Nashville. I might be coming back this summer, possibly for something. We'll see. We're waiting on it. But ladies and gentlemen, he has joined us. You know him from the Adam Carolla Show, and he's the singer of the Smokin Kills that I am lucky enough to be in the band with. Mr. Mike Dawson, good day, sir.
What's happening, Izzy? Everybody? Brian?
Hey.
Vinny? How are you guys?
Good.
Good. Just another beautiful day in paradise. Los Angeles,
right.
California.
So, I mean, obviously we're here to talk about Vinny's new movie. And Brian, I invited you in because obviously I don't know, technically keto, no sugar, no grain. I don't know how much of a difference there actually is. Vinny's head's going to explode with that question. But
got my t-shirt on. Proper human diet.
Yeah.
That's Dr. Ken Berry.
Yeah, Ken's a good friend. Love Ken.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was going to say, Brian, how did you, first of all, before we get into the flick, how did you discover this lifestyle and what drew you to it?
It was a long, kind of drawn out process, but it started with fitness. I got into that first, and then I started, I just wanted to get healthy because I first got sober like at the 1998. And from there, it was just this long process of just cleaning up my life and getting physically fit. And then I got into the nutrition part. And really what did it was I went for just a regular doctor checkup. and they checked my cholesterol, and the doctor wanted to put me on statins, and I go, wait a minute, I said, well, let me check. I said, well, anyway, I resisted. So what I did was I went back and I dove into the research, and I wanted to learn about cholesterol. So that's kind of what got me into it, through the whole cholesterol thing. And through that, I ran into Jason Fung and the intermittent fasting thing, and then the thing that got me into keto was bulletproof coffee. I heard about that, and then that was connected with keto, and then I started checking out that, and at the time I was pescatarian, basically a vegetarian that ate fish.
Yeah.
And at some point I just ran across Sean Baker and all this stuff, and I'm like, I knew that I needed to start eating meat again, and so that's when I started doing that, bouncing from carnivore to keto for about 6 months or so. But I noticed 2 weeks in, I did a month of carnivore first. 2 weeks into it, it was like I couldn't believe how good I felt, and my workouts, they just sort of went into overdrive. Like all this time I was working out, and I could see like some results, but nothing like really great. And then as soon as I started eating meat and dropped all the carbs, it was like everything just fell into line. And so it took me a while to finally just go straight carnivore. But when I moved to Nashville is when I did it.
Okay. Yeah, because I always see you're always posting your smoked meat, and with your duck eggs and your pictures of the deer in your yard, and all I can think of is backstrap. Delicious.
Yeah.
So Brian, you had a chance to watch the film. What were your first thoughts of the film after seeing it?
Oh, I mean, all that stuff, I mean, I'm in total agreement with. And that whole the Beyond Burger, Impossible Burger, all that stuff, it's just it's kind of frightening because people buy into it so easily, and there's so much money behind it. That's the scary part.
Yeah, I tell you what, though. Go ahead.
It's as bad as the pharmaceutical industry, really.
No, it really is. Vinny, I'll let you comment on that in a second. But there's my favorite two parts of the film. One where you're just sitting there eating a steak. It's all Vinny's just sitting there eating a steak. It's glorious. And then I'm like laughing my ass off watching this chick with the pulled pork fucking banana peel. It tastes just like it. I'm yelling, going, "You're lying. Stop. Just stop."
What's funny is when I was making the movie, because I'm making these things myself, and I was like, I need something right here. I kept thinking I need to put it in. That's when you start thinking, can I call Mike Dawson and have him smoke a few cigarettes into a mic?
Sure.
Because that's always sexy. Because Mike was in my first two movies. And it was like, I need something here. Maybe, Serena, we have a sound booth in the house. Maybe I can get Serena to yell something into a mic. But I needed something visual. So I looked in the fridge, and Serena was drying a steak out. And I said, "Honey, what's that steak?" She goes, that's your dinner tonight. I went, fuck it. It just became my lunch. And here's my cell phone. Record me cooking and eating this thing. And that's how we put that in. Everyone loves that scene. And that was my dog is even in the background of the scene.
Yeah.
It wasn't like any kind of professional shoot with lights or anything else. It's just my dog in the background and me cooking a steak and then eating it. But it worked. Brian, you brought up, got a lot of people, Sean Baker, you brought up Jason Fung, you brought up Ken Berry. All of those people started on my podcast.
Nice. I probably saw those podcasts, by the way.
Well, it was before I even did video podcasts. I've done over 2,000 podcasts now. Everyone thinks I started a podcast after I appeared on the Adam Carolla Show. I'd been going for like 5 years before that. And Jason Fung did not have a book out, didn't have any of that stuff. Ken Berry had no book out at the time. Sean Baker, you know, he's basically started the whole carnivore thing and making that word a thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was just messing around with it himself, not trying to get anyone else to do it. And he was in LA. I had this guy come over to my house and just sit down for an interview because I had heard about what he was doing. All of those people were early money, you know, on all of this, to the point when to answer your question, Izzy, whenever I started, when I wrote the book first, I wrote Fitness Confidential first.
Right.
And I did not put the word ketogenic in the book because I was scared that every doctor was going to go, this guy's trying to get you into ketoacidosis. He's going to kill you. I refused to have that word in my book. So in my case, I called it NSNG. I'm pretty sure Ken Berry was scared to use it. He called it the proper human diet. I'm pretty sure that, you know, Sean was afraid to use it. He called it carnivore. You know, we were all calling it something different, you know, to get people to try to eat. But when you look at it, it's all the same thing. And none of us get mad. Like if someone calls the proper human diet NSNG or Atkins or carnivore, we don't get upset about it. You know, it's all the same sort of thing. We're just trying to get as many people under the big tent as we can, because if you look around as a country, we're going to the dogs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Dawson, feel free to jump in at any time if you feel like it too. Dawson, did you have a chance to watch the film?
I actually have not yet. I'm looking forward to seeing it though, Vinny. And I think the interstitial of you eating a steak is just a brilliant idea. That's the way to do filler. I think Hollywood should really take some notes here, and you know, just more solo wide shots of a dude eating a bone-in ribeye, and you're going to see that translate to some serious box office dollars. But I will tell you one thing, Vinny, and I kind of want your take on this, because this whole Beyond Meat thing has gone beyond parody now. I'm watching football this weekend, and Chipotle wants you to know about the greatest chorizo that ever existed, and it ain't chorizo, but somehow it's the greatest chorizo that was ever made. And so, I mean, you talk about a battle for the hearts and minds. They're redefining words of food we eat so that they can control the narrative on what's good for you and what's not. I find it really disgusting, but I also don't consider myself one of the gullible types who's going to fall for this shit. Think about all of our kids who think that the real chorizo, the best chorizo, is made from a plant. Did you see these commercials?
Yeah, I did. Unlike these two guys, I watched, just like you, all 4 of the games this weekend, and you could not see that. It was on almost every commercial break. There was something about Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat, and it was always hooked to a fast food chain of some sort. And it was very sad. And I'm glad you brought up a word that's not used very often, Dawson. Interstitial. When I first got to LA, when I left New Orleans, I'd been doing what I was doing for 10 years in New Orleans before I got to LA. And I got there because I noticed when I was working with children, part of my job in New Orleans was I was a PE teacher at the same school that all the Manning kids went to. I worked with Cooper and Peyton in their early years. And I noticed kids were getting fatter and fatter. This was in the late 80s. So I got to LA in 1991, and I had notes. I had notebooks. I'm a prodigious, I just write down everything. I have notebooks full of notes. And I got meetings at that time, Nickelodeon, which was kind of brand new, and Disney and all these. I was able to get meetings. And I said, guys, here's what I want to do. I want to bring back interstitials. And they were like, okay, we're all ears. And it's like, and what do you want to do? I said, I want to talk to kids. I want to do kids. And I would sit there, and even though I can't sing or whatever, I would go, you remember conjunction, junction, what's your function? I would like it, but I want to do that. I want to have cartoon characters. I want to produce these things, but with health and fitness. And they said, you know, what do you want to do with that? And it's like, well, we have to get kids moving again. We have to get kids exercise. Yeah, just get out and move. They're not moving it. This is long before the cell phone, by the way.
Yep.
And so they're not moving anymore. They're not getting fresh air, and they're eating nothing but sugar. And sugar is just, it's going to kill us. And they were like, yeah, what else do you have behind? You know, we could get behind that exercise thing, but what else do you have behind besides the sugar thing? I said, grains. They can't have all of these grains. Well, grains are heart healthy. No, they're not. Grains turn to sugar in the body. What do you know of it? I have a degree in exercise physiology and another one in nutrition. I'm telling you guys that we can't do this. And they were like, yeah, but you don't understand. We are sponsored by Coke, Kellogg's, you know, Kraft. There's no way we could tell people during the commercial breaks right after a Fruit Loops commercial and a fruit roll-up commercial not to eat the product that we just told them to buy.
Right.
So I was behind the 8 ball from day one based on interstitials.
Yeah, no, that you're absolutely correct. And so Brian brought up earlier when talking about the big business side of this, and it's just weird that like how, you know, like James Cameron is part of that whole thing. How soon did you realize that this was a whole big business conglomeration?
Early on, you know, I heard before I heard about James Cameron being part of the movie that they had done, you know, the Game Changers movie. I knew all about, well, not just me, it wasn't some kind of secret. Everyone knew that he dropped $34 billion into a, not billion, $1 million with an M, into a pea protein company. And so everyone knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to come right behind that with a movie that just basically told one, but it's every vegan propaganda movie. It's one lie after another. Brian, you were a partial vegan at one time, only eating fish. Did you buy into some of the propaganda, or did you believe any of the propaganda?
Well, I was just uneducated, so I was, you know, I grew up through the 70s in the 80s too, but you know, when everything was low fat and, you know, meat was bad, supposed to be bad, and everybody was using margarine and that whole thing, and I didn't know any better. So I just stopped eating meat because I thought it was healthier not to. And I just did it for so long, it just became a habit. And, you know, there's a little bit of a, like, not wanting to hurt the animals thing involved, but not so much that it kept me away when I finally decided to make the decision. But it was more of just being uneducated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, it was odd for me, you know, whenever they started saying less animals die and all this kind of stuff. I grew up on, all of my family were sugarcane farmers, ironically enough. And every year they would cut the sugarcane, and you would watch, well, we would, you know, we wouldn't even have to take the beagles out. We would just go hunting because they would cut the sugarcane, and a certain number of rabbits that got away from the combine, we would just stand there and shoot them and have a bunch of rabbits for the pot. And then they would go after that because the combine would cut the cane and it would fall over the rows on top of each other like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they would come back and burn the cane in the field because they wanted to get rid of the leafy part so they could just have the stalk to bring to the mill. And once they did that, the rest of the mice were trying to head out of the field, and more rabbits and everything else. And that was the second day of hunting when you could go, you know, oh, they cut that cane today, tomorrow we could go hunting because they're going to burn all that, right? So I knew it happened with sugarcane. So it wasn't that difficult to talk to some soybean farmers and wheat farmers and go,
yeah,
hey, you mind carrying a cell phone in your combine and just get me some photos? And they were like, oh yeah, we have to stop the equipment to get animals out of the gears of the equipment constantly, because that's what happens. So the vegans want you to think, oh, it's just an incidental thing that happens from time to time. No, they pull out 5-gallon buckets of frogs and snakes and rabbits and everything. They have buckets full of this stuff at the end of every day. And then when they told me that, oh, we hire people to come out at night to like snipers and just kill animals, deer, hogs. The guy who sent me the videos obviously was all wild hogs.
Yeah.
Different parts of the country, they're shooting Bambi and there's no one there to take all that meat. So the meat goes bad before anyone gets to take it. So
yeah, dude, that's the worst part, you know, and
it's horrible.
And especially because I've heard that wild hog, like that's supposed to be the best bacon in the world.
I wouldn't know, but I would eat them if, you know, but how many wild hogs? I mean, we have one deep freezer and how many hogs can you take?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
One and you're full, you know? And so, you know, it's the fact that they're trying to make it sound like you're not going to kill anything with the face. Good luck.
Right.
You know, you're killing a lot of things with faces that will never be consumed.
Well, and on top of that, you know, the agriculture is just killing the soil, killing the earth. You know, and that in turn kills everything else. You know?
Right.
Like you wouldn't believe, I own a supplement company and our number one selling supplement is magnesium because people are not getting magnesium from food anymore because of monocropping. You know, we're raping the soil.
Right.
It's horrible.
Right. And the number one monocrop these days is soy. That's what every farm is growing and exporting. And, you know, it's a real shame about California. I mean, I'm a 5th generation Californian, and we've, throughout my lifetime, we've had some of the most fertile land in the world, but slowly, because they're cutting off water to farmers because of a crappy little fish in the Delta. And I get it. Hey, you want to save the fish? No problem. But California hasn't built a new dam since 1913, I believe. Since then, our population has completely exploded.
Yeah.
And everyone's screaming at us about a drought and that we got to use less. And it's like, wait a minute. We have snow runoff from the mountains that you guys refuse to do anything with. And in the meantime, you're shutting down all of our farms. And then other farms who support this big fake meat machine, they get subsidized and taken care of. And we all know what subsidies do to people. Subsidies emaciate you. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you give anyone a handout, you're crippling that person. You know, they're not going to work, you know. And that's what goes on. And by the way, going back to soybeans and monocropping, one of the arguments of vegans is no GMOs, dude, no GMOs. Well, guess what? 90% of all soybeans grown around the world nowadays is grown by Monsanto. And Monsanto only makes genetically modified organism.
Fake meat is GMO.
Exactly. 100%.
By definition.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad that Dawson knows this. You know, he can back me up on this stuff.
Well, I'm just a big fan of that bone-in ribeye.
Yeah. You'll watch the movie with an erection, I'm pretty sure, when you see it. It was pretty badass.
You know, we talked about animals, and one of the big points that you talked about in the film is, you know, they always say that, you know, cows are invasive and destructive species and the most destructive species in the world.
That's crazy.
I know.
Makes no sense. I mean, cows can actually regenerate land.
Yeah, that's what will save the planet.
Yeah. It's bizarro world, Brian. It's exactly the opposite of everything they tell us. Just 100% backwards to everything they're telling us. And I wouldn't have believed it myself. When I go into these movies, I don't have an agenda. I just take the information that's available and see what's there. And this one really scared me. When, you know, you guys, except for Dawson, saw the movie. There's this guy Klaus at the end where it's almost like watching Mr. Evil from one of those, you know, I will inherit the world, you know, that kind of.
Right.
He's that kind of guy. I couldn't make this stuff up. It's real. It's out there.
It's just absolutely insane. And people just keep buying into it, you know?
The Great Reset.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What is it? The planetary health diet? That really hot, like Swedish chick talking.
Yeah. And by the way, she sounded, they couldn't have gone to central casting and gotten a better cast than I was able to just find for this movie. That woman was right out of central casting. You know, you can't make this shit up. You know?
Well, the whole thing that really bothered me about that whole scene is how they didn't have anybody giving a different opinion.
That's true. Yeah.
I wish someone would have. I would have had it in my movie. And to that point, you guys saw it in the movie. I had my assistant go out to, I don't want to exaggerate, 12 to 15 of the top vegan expert doctors on the planet as we know them to be.
Right.
We showed maybe 4 or 5 of them in the movie. I was really trying to do a movie unlike any other documentary. I wanted to show both sides and let the audience make their choice. And I wasn't going to doctor. I'm not smart enough. I can't doctor these films, right? I don't know how that works. So I wanted to get Walter Willett's opinion. I wanted to get Dean Ornish's opinion. I wanted to get, Michael Greger, who says he wrote a book called How Not to Die. I wanted to get his opinion, and every one of these guys turned me down. And as you guys saw in the movie, I didn't just say they turned me down. I put their turn down letters up on the screen and read them.
Yeah.
Because the truth is way stranger than fiction. And some of their turn down letters were, it's like, yeah, I'm busy that day. Really? Because I didn't give you a day. I just said, would you like to be in a movie?
Right. Well, I think that just goes to the point too, is like, if you look at the comments just on the fucking trailer on YouTube, oh, he's just a propagandist, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, he offered people to come into this movie and have a debate about it, and they refuse. What the fuck do you expect?
Well, the people who are telling me my movie sucks on Amazon, here's the crazy part. I got a note, I call them notes, but I got an email from the president of Gravitas on a Saturday evening. I was finishing up those football games, and my computer dings, and I look, and it's from Brendan Gallagher. And he goes, man, you are killing it on Amazon. Oh my God, your numbers are terrific. I knew I was killing it on iTunes because iTunes shows you in real time. I think we're number 5 or 6 right now, as I sit here. I checked a little while ago. Amazon, you don't get to check, but he can look and see what the dollar numbers are up against every other Gravitas movie. And he's like, man, you are spanking it on Amazon. Thank you. Whatever you're doing is working. Meanwhile, I went to Amazon after the games and looked at my reviews, and there's a ton of reviews of people that have never seen the movie going, this is the worst movie ever. 1 star.
Right.
You didn't even watch the fucking movie.
Right.
Right. It's incredible.
Well, one of my other favorite parts of the film too is Greger. He's got the same laughing Kamala Harris cackle when she's lying.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about? Greger has the exact same thing.
One of my favorite things, whenever you do these movies, you have attorneys that have to clear everything in case they have to go to court. They go line for line, frame for frame, making sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. And they question everything.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, for my first 2 movies, I was on the phone for maybe 90 minutes for each movie. For this movie, I was on the phone with my attorney for 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And one of the questions he had, they called back after that, and he goes, oh, there's one more thing we forgot about. And I said, yeah, go on. He goes, you have this guy, Dr. Michael Greger, and he's being interviewed by London Real. I went, yeah. And he goes, well, obviously you pulled that out of context, and they could have a problem with that. You made the guy look crazy. You pulled out just, like a 1-minute piece where the guy looks like a total loon. I said, I'll tell you what you need to do. It's going to cost me a lot of money, but I want you to watch that whole interview. Tell me if I pulled out a moment when he looks like a loon. I said, as a matter of fact, go look all over the internet at this guy and tell me when he looks like a loon. You know, the guy called me back about 2 hours later. He goes, never mind. You're good.
Oh, that's fucking great. What was I gonna go here? Brian, what do you got?
What do I got?
Yeah, what do you got?
Oh, I don't know. There's so much stuff. Yeah, the movie. What's that organization called that we're talking about the diet? What was that again?
The Planetary Health Diet.
Yeah, yeah. That's a scary thing, you know, when you know, when they're trying to change, like, you know, the food laws or whatever. They're trying to, you know, ban meat. That whole Meatless Monday thing. I just read something. When was that? Today or yesterday? I think it was Canada somewhere. They were talking about, they're thinking about taxing meat to cover like health problems in the future that meat, well, supposedly causes. When actually, what they're accusing meat of is junk food, and they don't tax that for that reason. You know, and it's like you were saying, it's just crazy. It's completely upside down.
Right. Well, it's funny because you bring that up because they talk about that in the film about how, oh yeah, meat causes all this. You get a hamburger from this joint. This is the problem, but they don't talk about everything that goes on that hamburger that is actually causing those problems.
Yeah, and then you get the Beyond Burger to replace the only healthy thing on the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I got a theory as to why they are using meat as the scapegoat on the entire thing, is because there is no Kellogg's or Coca-Cola or major corporation that pays into or manufactures the proliferation of beef. When you go to your local grocery store and you buy a steak, it's got the Kroger label on it because they buy from a separate distributor that's, a conglomerate of ranchers that don't have enough skin in the game for our federal government to say, okay, you guys should be protected. But then you get the sugar pimps and they get to do whatever they want. I'm not sure exactly how to put a button on this, but am I crazy? Do you see where I'm going?
No, you're putting a button on it. By the way, Brian, your next band should be called the Sugar Pimps. Back in the late 80s, when I had my first talk radio show in New Orleans on WSMB, I was talking, the first thing I came across, this was back in the 80s. Think about it, this was a long time ago. Nobody was onto this, but I would look at nutrition facts next to what was written, because I knew, everyone knew this, the ingredients have to be listed in the order in which they appear. And my first discrepancy back then was the nutrition facts, which are not facts whatsoever, have nothing to do with the ingredients, right? And then I talked to someone who worked in the federal government, and they said, oh, they're allowed to have a plus or minus of X, so they can lie. They can lie on all of this stuff. And I said, well, why is that? The government's supposed to protect us. And he said, the government is protecting the people who pay them to get reelected. So, the politicians are going to go with that. And Dawson, you sat there, according to a guy named Giovanni, I've been on the Adam Carolla Show now, I think 87 times. Nice. And you sat there for 87 shows. Back in 2015, when I would come on the Adam Carolla Show and talk about the World Health Organization, they were everybody, Adam, Gina, Dawson, everybody kind of glazed over. What's he talking about? The WHO, the World Health Organization? Nobody knew what that was. I would talk about that. I would talk about all of these organizations that nobody knew what the fuck were until COVID came around. Then all of a sudden we had a CDC. Everyone knew what that meant. And all of a sudden everybody knows what the World Health Organization is and what they're talking about. I've been yelling about this shit for years and going, these people are screwed. They're not, our best interest is not what they're looking at. They're looking at their bottom lines. And everybody just glazed over when I would yell about that. But now everybody knows what the WHO is, right? Everybody knows what the CDC is. But no one cared about that until we had COVID, right? It took something like that for people to go, wait a minute, follow the science. The science seems to be changing every day. So which science are we following? I've been seeing that with the food industry since the 80s. And I've been yelling about that since the 80s, and no one cared. Everyone's like, oh yeah, just go. You're a flat earther. Just go do whatever you do, right? But now everyone's coming around going, oh, wait a minute, maybe you have a point. People like yourself, Brian, who woke up one day and said, wait, I feel like shit. How can I feel? Oh, I ate a piece of meat. I felt better, right? But yeah, Dawson, you're correct. You're absolutely correct. They can't make money on something that natural and that foolproof.
Right.
Yeah, it just goes back to follow the dollars. And that's really a concept that flows throughout this film, is follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that hard to do. And politicians, and that's what really got me onto this movie, because look, I put out Fata documentary in 2018. I followed that up a year later with Fata documentary 2. And within a year, well, just over a year, I put out a third movie. I mean, Dawson knows what it takes to make a documentary. Adam's got a warehouse full of people that can't put them out that fast. My deal is I'm working alone. I don't have to, I don't have guys ordering burrito for lunch. I just work through lunch and get it done. So, when you look at that, what would make a guy like me get so motivated to put something out, to get it out so fast? And what it is was when you turned on the television during the last election cycle, well, we knew that the right was going to run Trump. So that, Trump is in for the right. But now we have to look at the left. Who's the left going to run? Well, you got these 9 or 10 people. Well, Cory Booker's talking about meatless Monday and pulling meat out of the schools. I get that. He's a vegan. Obviously, he's going to say that. That makes sense to me, right? So if Cory Booker becomes president, he's going to do it. But then I start hearing Kamala Harris, when she was on a campaign trail, saying, we need to pull meat out of schools. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And she would do the cackle, the laugh that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And that's when I started going, wait a minute. They're all getting behind this, Green New Deal and this pull meat out of school. And I was like, what are we looking at here? And by the way, I'm not politically motivated either way, right, left, or center. I don't give a shit. I don't care who anyone votes for. But now Kamala Harris is one heartbeat away from being the president. And this is a woman who was going, yeah. Let's pull meat out of schools. Is that what we want in the White House?
Right. Well, and Vinny, I mean, to be fair, how much of the meat in schools is actually meat anyways?
Oh, true. None. But we're sending a message to kids,
right,
saying that meat is bad.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Brian thought that. You said, Brian, why were you eating fish? Meat was bad. Everybody knew meat was bad. Brian's a smart dude. The smartest people in the world are trying to be vegans, because they think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, especially, it's funny, the vegan athletes at the end of the film too. This guy set a world record. Oh yeah, it was in a vegan, all vegan competition.
Nice.
Yeah, Mike, you're gonna love that because Carolla had a guy on his show. I was actually driving across the desert, going from California to Texas to do a talk. And at a keto convention in Houston, and I was driving my vet because I was leaving it in Louisiana. My brother came to pick it up. So I'm whizzing across the desert, and Carolla has this guy on, the guy that narrated that movie, Game Changers. And this guy's just making up stuff, right, into the mic. And he's going, yeah, I used to do the rope jiggle thing, and the record was 11 minutes, but I went vegan, and 2 minutes later, I was able to go for an hour. Okay, if he had said the record was 11 minutes and I clearly went past 12 minutes, I might believe him. But by telling me you became a vegan for a couple of weeks and all of a sudden you beat the record by 48 minutes, 49 minutes to be exact, now I have a problem, right?
Yeah.
You're just making stuff up. And so then I looked at this guy, the strongest man. They clearly said in the movie, this is one of the strongest men in the world. He holds strongman records. Well, I'm a nerd. And what nerds do is we follow strongman competitions ever since I was a kid, watching them on Wide World of Sports, right? Every strongman I've ever heard of either came from Iceland, Reykjavik, Greenland, Oslo, Norway. These are big dudes. Every now and then you'll get a guy from the UK.
Yeah.
And these guys are big dudes. And I never heard of this guy's name. And I said, okay, I've never seen this guy. He's never made the show, because you always see who makes the show. I've never seen this mutton chop dude on the show, right? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was in some weird competition that I wasn't aware of. So I wanted to give the devil his due. I went and looked to see what strongman competition he won. And as it turns out, he won a strongman. He was the strongest vegan at a convention in a small town in Texas where there were only 4,000 people in the entire town. There was a vegan competition and he won one of the competitions. And I looked up some of his other lifts, and most strong high school seniors who are going for a D1 football scholarship can pretty much outlift this dude.
And that reminds me of this old and still very potent joke that I still use every now and then when introducing bands on stage. You'll bring a band on stage and you'll say, "This is the greatest band on this stage right now." And I mean, yeah, you qualify enough of those things, you break some records.
No, exactly. Well, it's funny. You talk about how, they're just making shit up. And it's funny, but they turn that around and say the same thing about you.
Yeah. Except as I say, I went and checked their facts. They were wrong. Look, they were right about the girl that made it to the Olympics. They said she was an Olympic champion, but that wasn't true. She didn't even finish first, second, or third. She didn't even get a bronze medal. More power to her. I could never make it to the Olympics.
Right.
Right. But this girl finished 23rd, 24th behind 23 meat eaters, from what I can tell. Look, I couldn't make it to the Olympics. I couldn't even go there to wash jock straps. But
look, wait a minute, Vinny. Curling is still a sport. There is hope.
Yes, but I'm not that good at sweeping. Ask my wife. You got to be able to sweep. And I've seen that. Look, the only sport I could have kind of made it in was maybe skeet shooting. And I'm not that good to even make it in that. But yeah, this girl made it to the Olympics, but don't call her an Olympic champion if she didn't even end up on the television. She wasn't even on television. Those heats are done off screen somewhere, right? You don't see it on NBC or whatever. So there was a lot of lives like that. So, and by the way, I could have done a whole movie just discrediting that one movie. One of my favorite movies, I don't know if you guys saw a movie called What the Health. In that movie,
I've heard about it.
It's one lie after the other. And one of my favorites is, if you eat one egg, just one a week, you can end up with type 2 diabetes. And also, if you eat an egg, you end up getting pus in your body. Now, I eat 6 or 7 eggs a day. And I've asked Dr. Drew, can you please point to where this pus is? Because I'm pretty lean dude. I don't have, Brian, do you eat eggs?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I eat duck eggs.
Okay. You're a pretty lean dude.
Mm-hmm.
Where's all the pus? Do you have any pus coming out of your ears or anything? I mean, look around. No pus, right?
Not that I can see offhand.
Yeah,
he pronounces it puss, and it's in the back room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vinny, maybe they're just trying to say that that's just loading up your balls and that pus is shooting out. I mean, that's just.
And the show hits a new low, folks.
Welcome to the Izzy Presley Show, folks.
He's back.
Oh shit. We're getting wrapped up here pretty quick. 'Cause I know, Vinny, it's pushing 10 o'clock in your neck of the woods over there.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit longer in the tooth than the rest of us. So, I'm just showing you that I care. But before we get wrapped up, I just want to give this number out. 24 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yes. Yeah. Go. If you don't watch anything else in a movie, whenever your friends want to know anything, just tell them, go right back to 24 minutes and 2 seconds and watch it right there. That tells you everything you need to know.
Exactly. Dawson, what do you got coming up, brother?
Oh, just the regular stuff, audiobooks and all kinds of shit like that. Got a new Kinky Friedman detective novel coming out soon. Just finished an audiobook on athletes' signature shoes. And right now I'm working on an audiobook for a guy named Ralph Pizzulo, whose father worked for the ambassador of Vietnam, worked for the State Department right at the beginning of the Vietnam War. And he wrote his tell-all memoir about his cold-ass family in a foreign country and being a 13-year-old kid living in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. The book's called Saigon. The book is out now, the audiobook coming out in just a few months.
Very cool. And also visit the smokinkills.com, no G, and buy the CDs. The album should be hopefully available soon.
I talked to the vinyl production company. As you know, supply chain issues screwed everything up.
Yep. Thanks, Adele.
But they did promise me that they will print me at least 100 vinyl records that I'll get by February. So those will be shipped out to pre-sale people. And then we'll have a few left over at the smokinkills.com.
I love it. Brian, you guys, we're gonna see each other on the Monsters of Rock cruise in a couple of weeks. What else is coming up on the KIX schedule?
Well, that's the next thing. I mean, this month I was supposed to be in Europe with Rhino Bucket, but that got canceled because of the whole weird COVID thing going on there. So yeah, I'll be on the ship with both KIX and Rhino Bucket.
That's right. Anything on the books past that?
Well, there's always the M3 thing coming up.
Right. That's a little ways down the road, but
yeah, we're pretty much booked up now, as long as everything stays open.
Yeah, right. I think we're going to be safe this time. I just got my fingers crossed. I got a good feeling about this. Vinny, you got your coffee, which I haven't tried yet. You got your vitamins, which I haven't tried yet. Where can people get those?
You can get the vitamins at purevitaminclub.com, the coffee at purecoffeeclub.com, and we have NSNG Foods where we have the ultra fat. Everyone can check that out. Brian, I just got back from Europe. Travel seems to be pretty cool going back and forth. We didn't have, you got to take the PCR test and all that kind of crap, but you guys should be able to travel pretty safely. And I want everyone to know the Smokin Kills album is delectable. If that album was out big, there are 3 singles on it that would be on radio.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'm not making that up because Mike is here. I would have said that if Mike wasn't here. It's just a great album all the way around. So congratulations on that, Mike.
Thanks. And if I can tickle your balls right back,
sure.
The ultra fat nut butter that you created gets me through pretty much every day. I eat 2 pouches of peanut butter in the morning and I'm good till dinner time. And that's just the way my body works. And I don't get headaches from not eating. Gives me just enough protein to get through. And it's healthy and good for you. And for those of you who, have those cups of coffee in the morning and it knocks your appetite right out and you're not going to eat, but then at like 3 o'clock, you're going to have this major headache because there's nothing in your stomach. These ultra fat peanut butter pouches are the way to go.
They're almond, yes, but yeah, a lot of people think it's
not peanut butter. Sorry,
it's almond, yeah, with coconut oil, and I actually put some of my coffee in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I put my ultra salt electrolyte in there, and also in one of the flavors, I actually put the coffee.
Wow.
Nice.
It's real caffeine from real coffee. So
Nice.
synergy, man, synergy. It's the way I roll.
I'm not gonna lie, I did have a chance to. Dawson was nice enough to let me try one of those, and I thought it was delectable.
Next time I'm in LA, Dawson, I'll bring a bunch by for you guys again. I've been coming in on the Skype call. What is it called? Zoom calls, but I'll bring a bunch in the next time I'm in the studio.
Fantastic.
And
Cool.
The podcast.
Fitness Confidential podcast, book by the same name, the book that started it all. It was a big time bestseller, Fitness Confidential, and the movie Beyond Impossible. So go check it out.
Yep, Beyond Possible available on iTunes and Amazon right now. Vinnie Tortorich, thank you so much. Brian Forsythe, thank you so much. See you in a couple of weeks. Dawson, I'm sure I'll be getting that call at some point tonight. But thank you guys so much. This is the Izzy Presley Show. I'll be back in 2 and 2 to close it out. Well, there we go, kids. Episode 1 of the relaunch of the Izzy Presley Show is done. It is in the can. And this show will be up every Thursday, I believe, is my push for day. So yeah, Thursdays, look for this show wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's Izzy Presley 101. That's simple. And if you do want to listen live to the Metal Edge Magazine, another effing podcast, go over to the Spreaker page. Hit that follow button, and you will get notified not only every time we go live, but every time that this show is uploaded, much like you get notified on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. So with that, I will see you next week. I will try to get something in the can for the following week while I'm on the Monsters of Rock cruise, or maybe I'm off for 2 weeks. Who knows? I guess we'll see how it goes. Roll with the punches, roll with the tide. My name is Izzy Presley. This has been episode 1 of the Izzy Presley Show official relaunch. We'll see you guys next week. I say good day to you, sirs.